Welcome to your next unit. This unit is titled 1000 Paper Cranes. In this unit, you are going to be learning about finding meaning in the arrangement of traditional cultural objects. To first understand your project, we must take a look at what still life art is. Still life art is when objects are arranged to celebrate material goods or communicate about man's temporary existence. On the left-hand side, we see a painting of a cake by the artist Wayne Thiebaud. This is obviously something that is a celebrated material good, a documentation of something that is enjoyed. On the right-hand side, you see a painting known as a vanitas still life painting. And vanitas art is known for communicating about man's temporary existence. We're able to see that this message is communicated through a skull, an open book with bent pages, a burnt out candle, and oftentimes in still life art, you will see jewelry. For your still life arrangement though, you are going to be focusing on a couple different objects, but you're going to have to use certain skills. So still life art is a way of journaling or documenting objects that carry meaning specifically to you. But it also requires the artist to observe closely, and it challenges you. Close observation will really push you to become a better artist, and it also is one of those skills that you will carry into every single work of art that you create. So you will create a still life drawing using a traditional object from Japanese culture. So here is a quick introduction. It all started with a piece of paper, one that was square. It was either printed or it was plain. The paper was folded back and forth until it made a crease. And these creases were pressed back and forth, pressed again, back and forth, and more creases were used. The paper crane brought joy and laughter, peace and comfort. Even when you would get sick, the paper crane was always a sign of hope and a sign of care, and it would even bring you luck. It is said in the Japanese tradition that folding 1000 paper cranes gives you a chance to make one special wish come true. Okay, so it is not just about paper. The paper crane actually has a really deep meaning, and as the video just discussed, it is all about hope and peace. And for some situations, the paper crane is used to bring luck or to answer one special wish. This is also known as origami. Origami can be broken down into two parts, oru and kami, meaning to fold paper. So a little bit about origami. Paper was first invented in China around 105 AD, and then it was brought to Japan in the 6th century. Paper was a luxury item, and so oftentimes when origami was created, it was strictly used for ceremonial purposes, and those were usually religious in nature. But then in 1797, origami folding instructions were produced, which is what you see on the left of your screen. And that made folding origami more accessible for all people to participate in instead of just origami artists. Traditional origami is characterized by the folding patterns and sequences that get passed down from generation to generation. And then there's the paper crane. The paper crane was first seen on a kimono, and it made that sudden appearance in the 16th century. In Japanese lore, the crane was thought to live for 1,000 years, and the animal was held in high regard and was known mostly for peace. The crane represents a variety of traits among various cultures. So in China, the crane was symbolic for honest and morally upright. But in Japan, where the paper crane originates from, it is known for fidelity, honor, loyalty, nobility, and beauty, and also peace, like was talked about in the previous slides. But it wasn't until Sadako Sasaki started making her paper cranes in the 1950s that the paper crane really became a famous symbol. So Sadako Sasaki was the first person to attempt folding 1,000 paper cranes. And it is believed that anyone who has the patience and commitment to fold 1,000 paper cranes will be granted their desired wish. Sadako Sasaki is the most well-known origami artist who best demonstrated hope, honor, love, and peace. She also was 2 years old during the bombing of Hiroshima in the 1950s. And after Hiroshima, there was so much radiation that she developed leukemia. And for years, she struggled and battled with leukemia. And to cope with that, and then to cope with her parents' death, she folded paper cranes. She did not reach the full 1,000 paper cranes before she ended up passing away from her leukemia when she was 14. So she invited people all over the world to complete her mission. Her brother is still alive and talks highly of the meaning behind Sadako Sasaki's ability to stay focused and to fold all of these paper cranes. She was really committed to using this as her method of coping with such trauma. Because of Sadako Sasaki's ability to stay committed to her mission of the 1,000 paper cranes, we see monuments that are now all over the world honoring her legacy. This really tall image is of Sadako Sasaki holding a paper crane. This is in Hiroshima, and students who live in Hiroshima visit this monument every single day to pay tribute to Sadako Sasaki. Then this glass item up here is actually a donation made on behalf of Sadako Sasaki's brother to New York, and it holds some of Sadako Sasaki's original paper cranes. And then artists today are actually still doing origami. Artists Tom Hall and Eric Joycel use mathematical engineering to create puzzle-like origami sculptures. These are, believe it or not, only made up with one piece of paper, and there's no glue or tape involved. So for your project, you're going to use your understanding of still life art, and we are going to learn how to fold paper cranes. And you're going to use at least one paper crane to document a arrangement on or in like a box or on a piece of paper, and you're going to create meaning with that paper crane that you include. So for example, on the left-hand side of your screen here, I have included a photo that I took of the paper crane I made. And perhaps using this arrangement, I want to emphasize the wing of the paper crane, the taking flight of hope or the taking flight of a wish. On the right-hand side, I've tilted my paper crane and I used an extreme light source on it to create a really fun shadow. And here we see some really nice movement as well, like we talked about in the last unit. But perhaps I would want to communicate how, like this paper crane, if I wanted to focus on illness, this paper crane could represent illness and the hope for becoming better. And so by having this paper crane tilted and the shadow pointing me back to the tail of the paper crane, my eyes are moving around the piece. And I can use that movement to help communicate a message about illness. How I hope that illness goes away. And it is through the cycle of illness that we can become better. So here's just 2 examples of how I have arranged one paper crane on paper with a light source to communicate a message about a wish or peace that I want to have. What is it that you want to communicate about? And how will you arrange your paper crane on paper or on a still life arrangement to communicate that message?